Well, let's move into Denver. They fired their GM and their coach last week with only a handful of games remaining in the NBA season. Essentially, what it feels like is flushing away the rest of the year, but they're obviously going to be in the playoffs. They're the fourth seed. They match up with the Los Angeles Clippers, who we just talked about. What is going on in Denver?
Yeah, not much that's good besides Nikola Jokic, obviously. Um, it just if something felt off about that team for the last couple of games now. If you've been watching Denver Nuggets basketball, it just hasn't felt right, and maybe for a little while now. And it didn't feel like it was going to bubble over enough for their head coach to get fired. But obviously, we are where we are now. I can't really put a stamp on anything like too concrete, but I mean, besides Jokic, it just has felt like there hasn't been all that much to look forward to for Denver Nuggets basketball this season, which is a little bit disappointing because they're coming off championship 2 or 3 years ago, and they're supposed to be like a contenders year in and year out, but clearly something just wasn't right between that coaching staff and those players, and there was like constant reports of like there just being like just rumblings that there probably shouldn't have been for a contender like Denver. So obviously it comes as a shocker to everybody, but there might have had to be a reevaluation in the offseason no matter what, just because of the fact that like they were starting to crumble during like at the complete wrong time, and Jokic was like one of the very lone bright spots for that team, at least towards the end of the season. So I mean, really unfortunate, especially you never want to see a coach get fired towards the end of the season, and we've seen it happen twice now. And the thing with this is like you have having no leader going to the playoffs doesn't support any case of like making it out of the first round, if not definitely not the second round. So I mean that team that could have been possibly dangerous, you give the if you have the best player in the series that you're playing and solid backup guys like Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon and all the other like Russell Westbrook coming off the bench, you have a shot at a series. But when you have no defined leader and Jokic is like having clips of him drawing up plays on the sideline now, it doesn't look good for that team.
Yeah, this is a disaster, in my opinion. And there's a couple different ways to look at it, but one is I think everybody realizes when you fire the GM and the coach towards the end of the year, and you are a playoff team with probably the best player in the world. Clearly, something was going on behind closed doors. Everybody knew it. You practically didn't need it to be reported after the fact. So, what is going on? What were the issues? Well, apparently, Mike Malone was getting attached to some of the veterans. He knew the players that he trusted, and he latched onto them late in game and in situations. Russell Westbrook was one of them, and he wasn't exactly giving some of the younger guys, the newer draft picks, the run that the GM Calvin Booth thought that they should be getting. Thought that they could potentially provide Jokic with some extra help. Mike Malone obviously disagreed. So what do you do now? Well, after you fire them and you maybe appease Jokic, who also was getting tired of Mike Malone apparently being so fiery, well, I think you have to lean into some of the guys that are younger, that like Christian Braun, or maybe you need to pull something extra out of a guy like Michael Porter Jr., paying him a lot of money. That is how you potentially turn this around. But you don't do it 3 to 4 games out of the year. That is what is really just sticking with me. If this was done 40 games ago, we could have a whole sample size of if any of those things actually work, if the alternative actually works, if getting those guys out of the building actually helps this team in the long run. There's a lot of people who say Jamal Murray isn't durable, and I get it. He hasn't been for his career, but when I'm looking at this squad and this team, like if they're the fourth seed and you want to call that underachieving, that's fine. But that's kind of what this team is. It's getting to the playoffs, be that third or the fourth seed, get home court in the first round, and then just match up against every team in the Western Conference, try to get the finals. And this is it's just so it's head scratching because you finally have like almost made it across the finish line. Feels like the hard part of the season. I get it. The playoffs are the hardest part of the season, but the hard part is actually for the Western Conference to actually just be in a spot to be able to get to the finals. Like you're not going to be able to get to the finals from the plan, or no offense to the Miami Heat, right? They did it, but still, like it's extremely difficult, and it's like one of those things where it's like if you're going to roll the dice, you might as well roll the dice and be have home court in the playoffs. So they did that, and they still fired him, both of them. I don't know where they go from here. This is just a whole disaster.
Yeah, I mean, home court's not like completely locked up. There's only one game that
Yeah.
separates like 4 from 8, but I get what you're saying completely, and I feel for not like for getting flack about like not playing like some of the younger players, I feel like he's done a good job of like developing Christian Braun into like what he is right now. He averages over 15 points a game. He started 75 of the 77 games that he's played in. So I think that head scratching is definitely the word to describe this move, just because of the fact that, like you were mentioning, the Western Conference this year was a marathon. Like we've come down to the final two games, final game of the season, and there's still like the 4 through 8 spots are still not clinched. The Lakers could still drop back a couple of spots. Anybody could still be in that play-in situation. Like none of the play-in spots, like 8 up, like 7 or 8, are clinched yet. So I just think that it's a really interesting move, especially towards this late in the season, and just a move that could happen in the offseason, quite frankly. If it's really not working out, why not give a championship winning coach a off season or a playoffs to figure it out, a postseason to figure it out. And if it's really not working, then you don't bring him back for the next season. But firing him in the middle of the season just feels like you're giving, as a general manager or the front office, feels like you're giving up on that season, and it just doesn't need to be done. Like you have the best player in the world, you can still win a playoff series, if not make it to the Western Conference Finals, and like you have a coach that has shown that he can get you all the way. So I think that we've kind of put a pin on that, but like, yeah, just for both of us, like pretty confusing.
Yeah, well, I'll say one more thing really quick. Like, if you're trying to appease Jokic, I think giving him a chance to win the championship every single year or attempting to do that is the best way to do so. And if he really had an issue with Mike Malone, you should have pulled the trigger and done this a long time ago. Now it feels like the backwards logic where it's like, oh, we're trying to save this season, so we're going to clean house and try to do it that way, yet you're flushing down the season because there's no possible way that you're going to win the finals or get to the finals with an interim coach. Like that's just not going to happen. Somebody has only been at the helm for this team for about 4 games. Not going to be good.